Okay, welcome to another episode of KUDEN Radio. Dai-Shihan Miller here from Warrior Concepts. Of course, most of you know that. I've got Sensei Alexander in the wings, backing me up for this. So cool. Here we are with episode 284. Holy shite. Anyway, all right. So nobody could ever say that I'm not consistent. Well, maybe James can, but nobody else can. So let's see. I like to kind of set these things up so you can get an idea of where I'm coming from, because I've touched on, I would say, how many times can I run over the same topics? But this past weekend, I guess, I decided that I was going to look back over past trainings, right? Trainings that I've given. Not just the programs that I offer to paid students and things like that, right? But just webinars, teleseminars, those kind of things that I've done over the years, recordings, workshops, all those, right? One session really stood out more than any other, right? And it was a webinar, right? I taught this thing a bunch of years ago, right? On getting unstuck. And what surprised me wasn't the content. And while I, may touch on things a little bit differently every time I teach something, right? It wasn't that, right? It was how many people registered for that one single training, right? More than almost anything else I've ever done. Okay? And the more I thought about it, the more I think I understood why, right? Because almost everyone, warriors, martial artists, hell, parents, entrepreneurs, business owners, protectors, name something, right? Everyone eventually goes through periods of being, or at least feeling, stuck, right? So that's the topic for this week, right? Getting unstuck, right? Of course, warrior style. So we're going to jump into that and more, right? As soon as we get started. So the big question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world. And that's still my real story. All right. So, again, for those of you just joining us, I'll recap what I went over during the little, pre-start monologue. But before that, right, James, who do we have? Who's checked in already? Who's saying hi? Where are they coming in from?
Looks like so far we got Kyle, Alan, Alyssa, Dave, Jared,
Wow.
Maury, and Linked Up.
Linked Up. All right. Awesome. Okay. I recognized most of the names, right? We've got our KUDEN circle that's always joining us. If you're not subscribed to the KUDEN circle, to make sure you're getting updates and early notifications about these things and whatnot, make sure you do that. I'm sure James can drop the link for that in the chat there. But if this is if you're new, right? If this is a first episode for you, or a first live, right? Speak up, put your hand up, say yeah, something like that. There's something wrong with my damn collar, and it's bothering me. What the hell, James? Where's my steamer? Torch my neck while I'm at it. Anyway, say yeah. So if you're new to this, say hey. Yeah. So This is KUDEN. Right? Again, for those of you who are new, KUDEN is one of 3 avenues of training in traditional Japanese martial arts. I can't speak for Chinese martial arts, but I'm going to make an educated guess that they are pretty much the same, uh, where fully engaged students uh, get the lessons, right? Get the lineage and the principles and concepts that are passed down. Okay, so Kuden actually, though the podcast, right, our show actually covers 2 areas, right? The 3 areas of transmission for the lessons in the lineage are known as Taiden, Kuden, and Shinden. Okay, so Taiden, body, den, transmission, right, is it's what it sounds like, right? The teacher demonstrates things, you practice with your body, right? You learn that stuff. And then Kuden is the teacher to student direct transmission, usually knowledge related, right? So this is everything from personal development, life lessons to history to even even like strategy and tactics and whatnot for how to better apply certain techniques or to work certain scenarios, those kind of things, right? Hatsumi Sensei got a lot from Takuma Sensei this way, right? Where he would write, Takuma Sensei would write letters, or and maybe they would be mailed, right? Because remember, Hatsumi Sensei was a long distance training student too. I know, right? So much for like you can't learn this stuff unless you're living close to a teacher and going to the dojo on a regular basis. Yeah, that's a common Western fallacy, usually perpetrated, and I mean perpetrated, and passed on by people who live near a teacher and go to training on a regular basis. So, um, but sometimes we would mail them again because Hatsumi Sensei would only go to see Takuma Sensei on average once a month, sometimes longer. Stay for a day or 2, right? Learn some stuff, have discussions, those kind of things. Take a shit ton of notes, a lot of photographs, and old school, right? 8 millimeter movie uh, movies to try to help him remember, right, when he was practicing back home, right? Um, but sometimes talking about Sensei, like I said, sometimes he was a mail it. Sometimes he would just like stack these things up, as well as little booklets and whatnot on certain topics. Right, could be describing like strategic setups or tactical applications of things or whatever. But it could move into topics like ones that stand out that really surprised me when I heard them were things like governing a province, creating fortified positions and literal fortresses, those kind of things, right? That Hatsumi Sensei would have to read, ponder, be confused by, dissect, those kind of things. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I was taught very, very early on in my training was that we should be seeing, we should be looking at perspective wise, right? We should be looking at videos and books, right? Articles, whatever, right? Um, like the scrolls, okay? Because the scrolls were the way things got passed on way back in the day because of the technology, right? Um, you know, if they would have had Xerox machines and whatnot back in the day, right, or scanners and printers and whatnot, who knows? Probably used that as well. Um, but in today's world, how has Hatsumi Sensei been passing on a lot of information that is accessible to and consumable by everyone uh, to to make us think, right? To get us to go deeper than the physical techniques, yeah? Books, articles, those kind of things, right? Now we have these things, right? This is as close to being in a dojo, but since our brains don't know the difference between being in real time and seeing something like seeing something out there and something that's going on in here, right? This is no different than being in a dojo. I mean, we can't touch each other, but from a kuden shinden perspective, we absolutely can. Okay, so kuden is the knowledge that gets passed, right? Shinden is something much deeper. Shinden, heart transmission, is I mean, they could be heartfelt kind of things, but they can also be like little kick in the ass kind of things from the teacher, things that sting. They can be, uh, and more often than not, are based on time. I get it, time with the teacher, but this develops over time. And watching the teacher do things, okay? Listening to how the teacher speaks when they teach about techniques, not the step by step instructions, right? But what stories do they use to reinforce things, right? What does that set up, right? What do they tell you that you should be studying and whatnot, right? That's not passing on knowledge. That's not the kuden. That's like, if you want to be this level, you want to be this type of person, you want to be this type of warrior, okay? And they may not say those words, but if they say, it's like a it's like a poem by Frost, or a story by Hemingway, and it's in this one particular story where it's like this no play, or it's like this haiku poem or whatever, right? Um, Everybody kind of nods. Oh yeah, right. But nobody goes and looks up the damn haiku. Nobody goes and looks up the story. Nobody goes and he just pointed, right? But I don't know, maybe it's a Western academic thing. We've just been taught that the teacher is going to tell us everything we know for the test. It's not possible. Not in something like Budo, right? Because life is the test. And not just like physical battles. Right? Battles of all sorts. Right? When was the last time a sword came at you? Or somebody drew a gun on you, pulled a knife on you, even threatened to do physical harm? But when was the last time you were in an argument? When was the last time you were in front of a pushy salesman? When was the last time you were directly or indirectly being swayed by, or having your ego stroked, or your presuppositions spoken to, right? You know what I mean? People tell you what you want to hear, so that you would comply, make certain decisions, vote a certain way, be on a certain team, those kind of things, right? So, uh, by watching the teacher live, by watching them interact, by watching them do uh, things a certain way, right? And then there's that back and forth, right? There's that trust, there's that credibility, there's that, if the teacher even just suggests that you do something, you recognize that, well, they wouldn't be suggesting it if it wasn't something they thought was important. So if I couple that with the Japanese teaching style, that they typically don't tell you to do things directly, which is what Western students wait for. We didn't tell me to do it, so it's kind of optional. Yeah, no. It's kind of like being in the military, right? When it comes to orders, right? So a non-commissioned or commissioned officer could look at you and say, I'm ordering you to do this. But they could say, do this thing. That's an order. Or they could say, do this thing. Or they could say, I highly recommend that you do this thing. Or they could go, if I were you, and you already know what needs to be done, right? All of those are orders. Just like in Japan, the teacher says, and this has been used on me, Jeff-san, good ninja walking idea. I think so. That just means he caught me not moving my feet, ankles, lower legs, and whatnot the way he's been having me work on for the last 4 freaking days. And I slipped, and he's pointing me back to doing that thing, because he would never just say, what the hell did I just tell you? What I've been telling you for 4 days, right? You want to be a ninja? You want to be a warrior? This is the way we walk. They don't do that, right? Or they could say, yeah, I suggest you know, take a look at this thing over here. Or in Hatsumi Sensei style, I tell you a story, or he'll be talking about something and go, "This is very, very important, right? This you'll find this in no plays. You'll find this in this, or you find this in the writings of this particular person or this particular uh, Buddhist sutra or Shinto practice, or they're pointing, right? And what they're doing in the Japanese style is telling you, go study that damn thing, right? If you want to get to this level. If you don't, just keep doing what you're doing. Okay. So anyway, that being said, James, anybody else jump on? I saw numbers go up. I saw numbers go down. The numbers go up. The numbers go down. Sorry.
Sensei McLaurin and Sean and Alyssa said, been watching only recently, last couple of months. First time jumping on live on time at least. Started training in California about 6 months ago.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, that reminds me of the old radio talk shows and stuff. Like long time listener, first time caller. Anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully, you're getting value out of this. Otherwise, I have to wonder what you're avoiding, and we're an acceptable distraction from that thing. All right, so for my longtime students, you know that this is a part of the teaching mix, right? This just happens to be something that I give away, right? Just like Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday, which coincidentally is every Wednesday, right? But it's the high level stuff, right? It's the stuff behind the techniques. It's the stuff that makes us who and what we are. Okay. It's also the stuff that I've noticed since starting in this martial art in 1980. That's gotten harder and harder to come by. Right. I have in a couple of upcoming episodes, I will be discussing the long distance student and how that is the path of most of the masters that people think about, including Hatsumi Sensei, Takamatsu Sensei, Manaka Sensei, when he was with the Bujinkan, and Musashi and a whole bunch of other people, right? But it's also the one that's condemned the most by people who think that you can't learn that way. And yet here we are. So we're talking about that. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of other misunderstandings and mistranslations of things as we move into this next phase of things, coming up on 300 episodes. So James, thanks for riding along and telling your woman, like, I can't do that right now. I've got to be making sure that buttons get pushed. Anyway, so all right. So without further ado, let's just jump into things. Let me pull up my notes here and get us all set. All right. So if you missed, if you signed on time, right, you caught the intro or whatever, and you missed the initial monologue or whatever, my thoughts that kind of produced this episode, and in all honesty, that carried forward became too much for one episode. So next week, at least the next 2 weeks, if not 3, right? I already have topics set aside that will be really geared to those who, one, are long distance students, but 2, even if you aren't, when you're not in the dojo, in that moment, you're a distant student. Okay. Not for me, but the person you're working with. Okay. I have been a long distance student my entire training career in this martial art, right? Ones before that, I chose the same way most people do. The school was close. It was an option among options, or somebody recommended it, and that's what I did, right? But Anyway, so just a quick recap. Of the past weekend, I was going back and reviewing because I teach a lot. I mean, we're coming up on 300 episodes of this. We're damn near just as many episodes of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Well, we're at least over 200, right, James? 200, 250, I don't know, something like that. And what do I have? Well over 600 articles out in circulation and programs and all that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of taking stock just to see, just to remind myself what I've covered, what I've done. And the big thing that stood out was that one particular topic there was a close second and a close third, but not by much, right? The one that stood out as having the most signups was actually a free webinar I did a bunch of years ago. And it was on this topic, right? Getting unstuck. And that really got me thinking. And so, again, 2-3 more episodes. But for this one in particular, again, I can understand why, right? I think everybody goes through phases where they feel stuck or they get stuck. If we're not careful, right, we can be stuck for so long that the agitation and the reminder goes away. And then it's a year or 5 years or 20 years or whatever before we remember, shit, I really want to get back to that, need to get back that. We feel that draw again, right? For some of us, the draw is constant, right? Anyway, so I want to dive into these, right? So there's something also that I'm working on in the background for folks that that may be interested in it. But within this, and I've been talking about evolution over the last couple of episodes as well. And not that we're changing anything about what we're doing, but I'm trying to get things back to. And while for a lot of people it seems like I'm changing things, that's something I really want to bring up about this evolution thing. I'm not changing anything, right? For those of you who are have gone through my pre and prerequisite programs for Mikyo training and or you're in Mikyo, we look at the initial training, right? The stuff that started well over 2,500 years ago, right? Hinayana, that path, and then how that evolved into the Mahayana or gave way to the Mahayana, right? Hinayana is still around, gave way to the Mahayana, and then the Vajrayana, or what we in Japanese we call Mikyo. And it's a natural progression. It's a natural evolution, right? Where the first part was about personal responsibility. It was about looking at oneself, one's thoughts, words, actions, those kind of things, applying discipline to stop creating bad freaking karma for oneself, right? Yes, you could be helping other people and whatnot, but it was very doctrinal. It was very disciplined, those kind of things. And then that evolved into that Mahayana path, right? Which was more about service and reflection and a broader view and helping others, right? Even over oneself. And then that evolved into the Vajrayana. Vajrayana would say that it's nothing different, but what it did was it brought the two apparent opposites of the earlier vehicles together, and instead of doing things in an academic way or making the lessons the point of things, right? Mikyo is all about the direct experience of truth, right? Yes, you're learning things and whatnot, but it's very much like martial arts, right? Where meditation isn't as much contemplative as it is literally acting out, right, in symbolic form, that which you want to be, right? It's literally a path of recreating oneself. But this is the same, right? So what I see on one side is the evolution. Hatsumi Sensei has even pointed this out in at least the last letter that I saw to the Bujinkan, that he's expecting that the natural evolution of the Bujinkan is that it will die with him. Okay. Now, I don't know that it's going to die with him, because there are folks that are stuck on the lessons, right? And so, no, there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to be, and they need to be there, or they need to hold on to this thing, right? And so they're going to do certain things, say certain things, approach things a certain way, and that's fine. Other folks, right, like the current Soke and whatnot, even if things kind of break apart organizationally, right, they will be teaching, and the next evolution is just like over time, right? These 9 schools came together in one person, came together in 3 people, right? Takamasu Sensei's teachers, into him, passed on to Hatsumi Sensei, and then everybody assumed, right, that Hatsumi Sensei would create one Soke. Well, Takamasu Sensei didn't create one Soke. Takamasu Sensei gave Soke-ship of 9 schools to one person. Okay, he didn't. There isn't one Soke. There just happened to be at a moment in time one Soke of the Bujinkan. But anyway, so Hatsumi Sensei decided to break it back up again, right? So 9 Soke ships across 8 people. And then one of them just recently died. So I haven't heard, if anybody can tell me what's going on with that one, that'd be awesome, because I don't know if that reverted back to Hatsumi Sensei and he's going to do it to somebody else, or somebody else quietly got that and I haven't gotten the memo yet. Don't know. But what I have been doing, this is not something I'm getting back to. I am getting back to using certain terms. But what I've never let go of was the full scope of Ninpo that I was introduced to and taught coming up through the ranks, while a lot of folks were confusing what we were doing with creating fighters. This whole other episode we'll talk about here. And reducing the full scope of the training down to Budo Taijutsu. And I know, right? There's going to be lots of naysayers. There's going to be lots of people telling me I don't understand. I'm not in the loop. I'm not. Broad shoulders. Right. So anyway, folks are getting stuck, right? Again, because almost everyone, warriors, martial artists, whatever, right? Protectors, entrepreneurs, everybody eventually at some point goes through periods of either like actually being, or at least feeling stuck. Like they can't move forward. They could be doing things. They could be wanting to do things, whatever, right? They could be stuck in training. They could be stuck in motivation. They could be stuck in fear, stuck in hesitation, stuck in unhealthy, like in an unhealthy place emotionally or mentally. They could be stuck in old patterns that they're trying to break free of. You'd be stuck in a relationship, or, more than one relationship if they've not made good life choices. They could be stuck, they could feel like they're stuck in careers, right? Name something, right? And the thing that makes being stuck so frustrating, right? I know I've been stuck, right? We've all been stuck. I'm not on a pedestal. The one thing that makes being stuck so freaking frustrating is that we usually know what we should be doing, but can't make ourselves do it. Right? So during this episode, I want to talk about the real reasons warriors get stuck, right? Not the surface reasons we tell ourselves, right? And what we can do to create momentum, clarity, and progress again, to break free, right? Even when life is messy, even when life is stressful, even when life is uncertain, right? Okay. And I say the surface reasons we tell ourselves, and often we've sunk so far into the story we tell or into the story we were given by someone else we trusted, right? But for the most part, we know, right? We can feel it, right? That little voice in the back of our mind, right? That nudges us or flashes an image or a list left undone, right? We know, right? Again, from our Mikyo students who know what the mandala, the Tibetan wheel of life, looks like. Right? It's a big wheel and it's separated into 6 segments and kind of some inner circles and whatnot. Um, there's this, if you know what that looks like, right? This conscience, right? This little voice that I was just talking about, right? Is Yamantaka, right? It's this big red monster looking beast, right? Biting, holding on to and biting on the wheel, right? Big ass claws, fangs, right? This is symbolically, right? Our inner voice of truth, right? Our conscience, right? Ready to bite or claw every time we try to hide or explain away the truth with some reason, excuse. I know we never have excuses, right? There are always reasons. But it's that kind of thing, right? And whether you buy into the iconography or not, right? And unless, of course, unless you're a narcissistic sociopath, right, with broken interconnections, right, in which case all bets are off, right? Because they just fake things, right? Unless you're one of those, and again, regardless of whether you buy into the symbology, right? You know the voice I'm talking about. Okay, we all do. So, what I want to do during this episode is I want to take a look at 3 truths, warrior truths, okay, that are necessary for us to get with the program, so to speak, right? They're about getting unstuck. And the sooner we understand these truths and act in accordance with these truths, these are not beliefs, these are not doctrinal, dogmatic rules that this group over here says you follow, while that group over there says whatever. I kind of like certain religious denominations, right? In one, it's okay to smoke and drink as long as you don't have sex, and another one over here, you can have sex and you can, as long as you don't smoke or drink, and you get the idea, right? That's not that, right? We're talking about ultimate truths, right? And the thing about truths is you don't have to fucking like them. Right? Truth is bitter. Okay? Truth is truth, no matter, regardless of whether you believe in it or not. Okay? Which is why I always get irritated when people go, well, that's not my personal truth. No, that's not your personal translation of your experience of your life as you've lived it, coupled with the filters you have in place that either somebody else gave you or you developed, and the results of your karma, your actions, which include thoughts, words, deeds, beliefs, spoken, unspoken words, whatever, right? Personal truths, no, personal experience of what we perceive to be reality, not the same thing. Okay, so we'll take a look at these 3, all right, and then we'll circle back. I'll check to see if there's questions or comments or anything like that. But yeah, if you want, while I'm going into this first one, if you want to post a statement or whatever, if you personally have never felt stuck in any area of your life with regards to anything, by all means, let me know. Okay, because again, I'm going to be not sure as to why you're here. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to be going into these things a lot more in the future. In a different format, right? I've been some people would say I've been harping on these things, but I've been teaching on these things for a long, long time, because these were things that in the beginning I felt like they were being shoved down my throat, but I needed to get my head wrapped around them and understand that, look, this is the path to mastery. This is the path to that person that I need to be to live the life that I want to be living. We don't get to live a life or get benefits being a certain type of person that doesn't produce the kind of karma and results that produce that kind of life, right? Anyway, so what I mean by that, as far as the difference in format, is we're going to call these ethos, right? Ethos. So I've come up with, I think, 8 of them. And again, I'll talk about them later down the road here. I'm actually going to start talking about this little thing I've been working on in the background here in a couple of days. Just kind of start telling people about it and whatnot. Certainly not something for everybody, but but you'll start to see these things kind of pop up. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 of these things today, right? And so the very first one is momentum beats motivation every time. Okay, momentum beats motivation every time, right? And I know, right? This sounds like a rebuttal, or it sounds like I'm, contradicting the whole "I'm waiting to feel motivated." Okay, so motivation is a feeling. Motivation is emotional weather. It's unpredictable, it's inconsistent, and it's impossible to depend on. You think about this, right? Kind of a little warrior analogy for you, right? Arrows don't fly because the archer feels ready. Okay? Imagine an archer on a battlefield, right? The enemy's charging toward him, charging toward his group, right? He's got arrows in hand, bow in hand, and he says, "I'll fire when I feel motivated." Right? How long do you think he's going to survive? How many others do you think he's going to take with him? Arrows don't fly because the archer feels ready. They fly because he pulls the damn string. Okay? The action creates the outcome, not the feeling. As a matter of fact, it does, even if he felt like firing the arrow, the feeling doesn't launch the arrow. Knocking the arrow in the string, pulling the damn bow, and releasing it sends the arrow flying. Okay? Warriors are people of action. We're also people who make decisions. Okay? But nothing gets done without action. Everything flows from action. Even if we don't know what to do next, doing something immediately gives us feedback. Right? This is so much a universal truth. It's in Mikyo and pre-Mikyo doctrine. And I don't mean doctrine like, rules to follow. These are things that enlightened people who have been watching processes for centuries have realized. As a universal truth, this is how things work as a process. When people try to work it a different way, it gets jammed up. Okay? So again, the action creates the outcome, not the feeling. In your life, the arrow is momentum. And waiting for motivation is the surest way to lose the fight before it begins. Motivation is like those, good intentions. You know what they say about the road to hell, right? Paved with good intention. Kind of wait until I feel motivated. Not feeling it today. Oh, really? So that stops the world in action. We're just going to hit pause on the VCR, the DVD player, or the Netflix channel or whatever, right? And it'll just hang out until you get back and decide that you want to finish watching I'm glad that it doesn't, because with so many people pushing the goddamn pause button, I'm pretty sure that the rest of us would be stuck in hold mode until they got their asses together. Right? So most people have no idea how much their internal chemistry and mental thunderstorms, the literal electrical thunderstorms, the synapses that fire in the brain, right, are caused by and affected, right, by what and when we eat, what and when we drink, when we breathe, right? How much breath we're getting in, the quality of the air, how much we're exhaling, colors around us, even textures and sounds, right? Not just the voices of others, but random noise in the air, right? People have no idea how much that affects internal chemistry and electrical impulses, right? Couple that with habit patterns over time that have caused our cells to literally become coded in a way that gets us to a specific emotional state, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, more quickly, because that's what we were doing consistently at a certain time. And as our cells subdivide and create sister cells, the body is so adaptable that when it creates the sister cells, it creates docking ports for these things called peptides, which are chemicals and whatnot that affect our emotional state and the state of the cell itself, right? That get us to anger or get us to lazy or get us to whatever faster, because the body adapts to internal and external conditions that are consistent and persistent. So it can do those things faster without struggle. Right? So again, we literally code ourselves, right? Good or bad, right? And think about this, right? You, me, even James, right? Right? We have the makings of something. We are, right? We are happenings. We're these constructs, right? And are products of something that can't be turned off. It can only be reprogrammed over time, just like it was programmed over time, if we take the time to work on it. Until then, we see this kind of thing, right? This motivation before action, right? Affecting people in all kinds of areas, all areas of life, right? All you have to do is listen, right? And you can hear them telling the world what's going on inside, right? In business, right? You'll hear people say, like, I'll start when I'm inspired, right? In fitness, I'll exercise when I'm motivated, right? In training, I'll come back when I feel like it, right? In relationships, I'll fix this when the feeling returns, right? The feeling's gone. I'll wait until the feeling comes back again. Or the next person that causes that feeling, even though I don't know anything about them other than they triggered the feeling. Oh, I'm going to jump in the sack with them. Then we'll live happily ever after with 2.2 children in a house with a white picket fence. Just like we probably did the first fucking time around. Right? But the cold, hard truth is that movement creates motivation, not the other way around. Right? Even if we're moving into something that's negative, it still causes freaking movement or motivation, because we're going to be motivated to steer around the negative. Okay. But stasis causes nothing. Okay. Which brings us to the second warrior truth Actually, before that, again, I almost forgot again, James. Shit, sorry. You need to like reach through the cattle prod or something, and they need to wire up these computers so I get a little shock or something. Anyway, sorry about that. Before that, before we talk about that stuff, right? If you're finding value in these episodes and the lessons I'm sharing, you guys, most of you know the routine, right? Whatever platform you're on, like, share, subscribe, and I'm gonna add one this time, right? Leave a comment, right? Tell us what's your big aha moment, right? What's your biggest takeaway from this or any other episode, right? Um, what how is this helping, right? For those of you who binge listen to things, why? What are you getting out of it? Or is it just the sound of my voice? Probably not, but anyway, it is helpful that my voice isn't like this, though, right? Could you imagine, James? Could you imagine? Sorry. Anyway, speaking of James, he's waiting patiently in the background. So, James, what kind of questions or comments do we have up to this point from anybody?
Just that Greg from Australia is on,
Awesome.
and Jimmy said come
My Aussie boys are really picking up, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Isn't it really late? Well, maybe it's very early where you are. Yeah, it's probably closer to Japan time. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
That's it.
See, I made people's heads crack again, or I put them to sleep. Maybe. All right. Well, in that case, I'll just keep moving. James, do you have anything to toss on top of this? Anything that I mean, you and I have conversations about this kind of stuff all the time. We tend to be people watchers, right? Every place in the world is like a people zoo. Just make sure that you turn the lens at yourself first, because the ego is really good at pointing out everybody else, but it's our life. Nobody else is going to create it for us. They'll certainly trip over it and get in the way, because they're bouncing through their lives. Most people, I don't think, they don't have ill intention. They're just not in control. They're not aware. They're not in control. Shit, I'm barely aware and barely in control. And actually, this is even in Miko and whatnot. The more aware you are, and the more control you are, and more control you have over processes, right? At certain points, the agitation. Everybody thinks, it really is true that ignorance is bliss. Until, like, the house of cards comes falling down, then you get pissed off, and that's why it's a roller coaster ride. But that know the truth and it shall set you free. Yeah, sure does. I mean, why things happen and all that kind of stuff, but there's nothing in there that's a statement or an implication that, like, trouble goes away, right? Or if anything, you become more sensitive and more aware of the way things work, and how one little chaotic movement by somebody over there that was just not fucking paying attention, or bouncing around in their own life like one of those ball bearings in those old-fashioned pinball machines, right? Hits a bumper and boom, flies over somewhere else. It's being affected by gravity, inertia. I think about those bumpers that when they get touched and they fire, whatever. That's like bumping into overly sensitive people, right? All kinds of shit, right? And so, trying to navigate, you really need to get out in front of things. You need to, and it was and I did a teaching on this a long time ago too. The 7 characteristics of an enlightened mind, and one of those characteristics is the ability to see the past and future karma in any given thing or process or operation, right? What the hell does this have to do with self-defense and martial arts, sensei? If I can read someone's punching type, right, the way they throw punches, or whether or not they're a puncher or they grab and punch or whatever, based on build, the way they walk, the way they carry themselves, size, right? The way their shoulders are positioned as they carry themselves. Because again, we're built from our habit patterns. The way they start taking up a posture, position of the elbows relative to the ribs, that kind of stuff. Then, and this isn't guessing, right? This isn't guessing. Then I can eliminate a whole bunch of possibilities or probabilities, right? The probability is this guy's coming. And then if I position and control space between he and I, then I eliminate or force him to do things that make his movements bigger and give away his position, his intention, those kind of things, right? I make him more predictable while making myself less predictable. That's what we teach in this art. Not how to fight somebody the same way everybody fights. We're just going to do it differently, whatever the flock that means. Anyway, so I'm sorry. Didn't mean to trample all over that question that I had for you, but anything that comes to mind?
Well, actually, while you were talking, Dave said consistent listening to KUDEN is like a peptide pep rally.
Dave. Did you I don't know if you watched them or not. I know you processed them and got them up onto the secure server and stuff so people could get the class recordings and whatnot. Did you see Dave's latest background?
Oh, I think I did.
That freaking deep blue and gold and all that kind of stuff. Wow. Supposedly he wants to do his like the inside of his house that way. Like, ooh, there's an elevation in class. All right. I might have to start thinking differently about Dave. Now he's quite the artist. Right? So better artistic than autistic, right? Although I think we all have a little bit of a streak of autism in us. Anyway, define. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Greg said today's talk is wonderful so far. Just reminds me of what I've forgotten. And he's also said it's Tuesday at 12:52 p.m. there in Australia.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. I just know that when I hop on an airplane, if I ever come and visit you guys in Australia, it's a 22 to 24 hour nonstop flight, which is why I will be stopping at least once or twice across fucking England and Europe, because like my ass will be flat, or I'm going to need to like pay the extra money to be sitting in at least business class or something so I can freaking recline and get my legs up. Anyway, so cool beans. Anyway, back to you. Did you have an answer? Or are you just going to like keep deflecting to other people's things? It's been working so far, huh?
Yeah.
That's all right. You said you were thinking about, or when I was talking about something you were thinking about. Sorry. I should come back to you. Yeah. It's gone again, isn't it? Thanks, Dave and Greg. All right, way to go. That's okay. I'll come back to you. All right, so back to my notes. All right, so okay, on to the second warrior truth. Right, second ethos. All right, you don't need perfect conditions. You need progress. Okay, this is my rebuttal to. It's not the right time. I'm not ready yet. Life's too busy. Yada, 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 yada. And I get it, right? Ego has us convinced that we're unique. But think about this. If we all think that we're unique, then we're all fucking average. So, right? None of us have any of these things, right? Like, if I mention Hatsumi Sensei, well, you understand, man. Like Hatsumi Sensei was, he didn't just, when people hear that he ran a like physical therapy bone clinic and whatnot, right? They're like, well, he was like self-employed, dude. Of course, he could close up and, he's making a lot of money. He could drop on a jump on a train and all that. No. Yeah, he owned the place. He ran the place. He was the head doctor of the place. managing other doctors. Okay. That's how he met Isuku Sensei. That's how he met Nagato Sensei as teenagers. They got injured in judo things. And not only did they come to the clinic in Noda because that's where they lived, but they ended up seeing him. Okay. So for anybody that thinks those of us who run businesses are lucky because we can set our own hours, don't understand that we have a shit ton of bosses. They're called clients. And they all think they're the only one. Right? So, and if we're managing operations, right? I have a Wednesday team meeting call right after my 5 to 6 o'clock class that we get on and discuss upcoming things and whatnot so that things can be in place for, right? Or what kind of glitches occurred on the online. James, you don't ever have to worry about technology failing or anything like that, right? I mean, people don't have a problem because they're accessing the site, the membership side with an Android, which is typically our glitchy thing, or iPhone. We never have shit like that going on, do we? Or there's a glitch with the freaking SSL certificate, and next thing you know, they can get to the site, but it suddenly tells them that it's unsecure, which usually tells people that, don't do anything through the site because we're trying to rip off your. That's pretty much what the message says. Yeah, we never have any of those problems, right? So, nope, we're ninja. We got life under control. No, it just means that when shit like that happens, we don't sit around and piss and moan about it. We fucking take action. So, but anyway, right? So let's look at this from another warrior analogy, right? And we'll stay on the battlefield, right? The enemy will not wait for you to feel ready. Okay. Talked about this with the momentum beats motivation. Okay. It's the same thing. You don't need perfect conditions. You need progress, right? You need activity. Okay. So again, imagine a warrior, right? On the wall of a fortress, or even better, right? Spooning with his sweetie under the blankets in the morning, right? And a scout rushes in, right? The enemy's on the horizon. They're marching in, right? They're coming, right? And the warrior replies, yeah, can't do anything right now, right? Not a good time. I'm tired. It's cold outside. I'm not in shape. I didn't sleep well. I'm busy, right? I'll wait for a better moment. What's going to happen? The warrior would fall. And so would everyone who depended on that person. Right? Because the enemy doesn't wait for perfect conditions. In fact, the law of karma says that things happen precisely because the conditions were right. Right? Whether it's stress, violence, whatever. Right? They happen because the conditions were right. Right? So the enemy doesn't wait. And neither do the other battles in your life. Stress doesn't wait. Violence won't wait. Opportunity doesn't wait. Healing won't wait. Growth won't wait. Make the list as long as you want. Okay. Warriors train in the world they have, not the world they wish they had. It's not the best time. Well, what does the best time look like? Well, I'm retired and I got all the time in the world. Really? Yeah. So you're in your mid to late 60s. Your body's breaking. You're visiting the doctor more often than you're what? That's the best time? There's no freaking best time. Right? Like the mugger on the street. Hey, dude, I really need some money. Is this a good time to hold you up? Right? We train to do shit and we're prepared to do things when everybody else folds. We can't believe that we're something more than the average person. We're fucking doing the same thing that the average person does. I mean, you can fantasize all you want. But again, you hear statements that reflect these things in all areas of life almost all the time. At least I do, right? I'll train when my schedule clears. I'll get back into martial arts after I lose weight. I'll work on myself when things calm down. I'll start when I have more time, space, energy, money, yada, yada, yada. The cold hard truth is, if you can only move forward when life is perfect, you'll never move forward at all. Because life is never going to be fucking perfect. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. Got one more for you. James, anything?
Greg just said now is the best time.
Okay. Don't tell me. Pretend I'm from Missouri. I just used that in class the other night. 3 people looked at me like, what? Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. New York is the Empire State. Missouri is the Show Me State. So if I ever say, pretend I'm from Missouri, what I'm saying is, show me. All right. What's that old saying? Talk is cheap. It's not about you, Greg, because we're all enlightened here in this little gathering. Right. But somebody mentioned something earlier about these are reminders. That reminds me of a skit by a comedian, George Carlin. It's one of my favorite comedians. He was a master at like words, not just saying words, but the way words work. And he, as part of one of his skits one time, he said, and people were laughing. He goes, "This is my job, right? To remind you to laugh at stupid shit." Or to tell you about stupid shit, or to remind you to laugh at stupid shit that you forgot to laugh at the first time. Right? So mine is just the opposite. It's still to remind you, right? It's to share lessons with you that you might not have gotten, or to remind you of shit that you did get, but you forgot. Okay? This is like our student creed. I believe in myself. I'm confident I can accomplish my goals. I believe in what I study. I'm disciplined. I'm ready to learn and advance. I believe in my teachers. I show respect to all who help me progress. And then that transitions into our vows of intention. I'm not going to recite all those, but they are. I intend to develop. As an example, I intend to develop self-discipline in order to bring out the best of myself and others. Da da da. And then that transitions into the Warrior Code of Action. I train to promote the thoughtful expression of truth. I will avoid using dishonest words. Again, just as an example, right? So while there is a transition from belief to intent to just the way it is, right? I make students learn these things because if we can't remember the wording, how do we know that we're doing it? By reciting it, it tunes our mind to pay attention to catch us when we're not. And it keeps us on the track of progress and living and acting as first a warrior aspirant, eventually a warrior, and then hopefully into the realm of mastery. Right? So, again, I try to have these mechanisms for students. And while people would like to believe that they don't exist, there's a reason I wrote the book, Seishin Teki Kyoyo, and that I cover a lot of the areas of training that warriors would have been exposed to and or actually been students of historically. And you can see glimpses of these things in the Makimono, in the scrolls. Not the Densho. The the densho, what everybody wants to collect, because that's like the cool techniques. Except the techniques are they're just a place to start. They're an example of these deep strategic and tactical principles and concepts in action. They're a place to start. But some people just like collecting coins and collecting stamps and collecting kata and collecting warm fuzzy moments. Anyway, all right, let's keep moving here, right? So this leads us to the third truth, the one most people misunderstand. Ethos 3. Confidence comes from action, not before it. I'll say that again. Confidence comes from action, successfully doing things, not before it. If somebody has what looks like confidence beforehand, I'll share a little story here. Some of you may not have heard it. Other ones may have, but again, I'm in reminder mode tonight, right? Not fake confidence. Fake confidence will collapse like a house of cards as soon as the right condition or the wrong condition is applied. That fake confidence, that fake bravado, that person will fold like a bad piece of Japanese origami, right? So this ethos, right? Confidence comes from action, not before it. This is the rebuttal, right? This is the counterintuitive perspective to I'm not ready. Who am I? And who am I to do this now? Right? I'm not one of the lucky ones or the privileged ones or whatever self-deprecating or self-sabotaging belief systems people have that need to be ferreted out like a cancerous tumor and thrown as far away from them as they can possibly throw it. So while we're at warrior analogies, right? Let me just start by saying that no samurai ever felt worthy before their first battle. No warrior has ever felt worthy before their first battle. Right? There isn't a single story in the history of warrior traditions where someone said, like, first off, going out in the battle, going out in the field, right? I feel perfectly ready. I feel totally confident. I feel completely worthy. I know the romanticized stories might show that kind of stuff, but yeah. Okay. No samurai, no ninja, no warrior of any culture entered their first confrontation feeling fully prepared. Right? They might have been prepared to die, or at least that was the philosophy, the idea. Right? And that includes me. And that includes other people that were in the military police unit that I was in what was that? 83, 84, something like that, right? When we found ourselves on a C-130 transport plane on the way to a little tiny island nation near Cuba called Grenada, right in the middle of the hot stuff. Snipers, firefights. Right? As a matter of fact, we landed a couple hours, if not a day, after we had booted the Russians out of their embassy, sent them off the island, and one of them left a grenade in a cinder block with the pin pulled, right? Just kind of in there with the spoon being held in place, that yours truly sat on or near, because the airfield that we landed on was the only secure place on the island. The island of Grenada, circumference-wise, is about the size of inner city Philadelphia. And there's no place to go but up on a single piered little mountain-ish kind of thing, right? This big fucking hill, or the ocean. So I didn't know about the grenade until next day, 2 days later, when there was a report of the grenade going off when one of our engineers took a heavy-duty bulldozer to lift up some of these blocks to move them over to a wall they were building, right? So if you ever visit Grenada now, it's a great vacation hotspot. I'd love to return to it. Great little Caribbean place. The airport, the terminal, courtesy of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. I'm sure it's been beefed up since then, since it's been a couple of decades, but the original thing, right? Landing strip was started by the Russians and the Cubans, and we finished it. But anyway, landed, and lots of interesting moments. One of which was the first instruction we had was to lock and load and mount up sniper reports on the only road to get where we were going. Okay. That didn't take confidence. People keep telling me it took some courage, but let me tell you what did happen. Some of you already know the story. All the yahoos that played John Wayne during field training exercises, nowhere near a real war, the ones that ran around, kill a commie for mommy, all that kind of crap going on, right? Yeah. Ones crying and praying and pissing themselves on the jump seats farther down from me. What was I doing? Staring at the far side of the plane, the fuselage, M16 between my knees, running through training scenarios. I hated field work. I wanted to be a cop. Just let me be a cop. But I had to go do soldier shit, right? I hated getting dirty. Not that I only camping and all that kind of stuff. It was just, I didn't like it, right? But I still did it. Running through these scenarios. The plane doesn't get vaporized before we hit the ground. That door opens. I'm going to look for X, Y, Z, dun, 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 right? But what broke through that was all that false bravado falling down around me. The only person I can say that was truly confident in that plane was the sergeant sitting right next to me, who was the desk sergeant back at Fort Bragg, where I worked on the desk crew at that time. And he served 3 tours in Nam. See, confidence came after, right? For him. Okay. I have lots of experience. What I have confidence in is not that I can handle any situation, because I'll always do my best, and lots of things will make me shake in my shoes and be nervous and all that kind of stuff. Okay. What I am supremely confident in, because it's a skill I've developed over the years, is figuring out what the problem is so I can apply the right answer if it doesn't kill me first. Okay. So confident, let's not confuse bragging and the sitting around the table bullshitting about or talking about, or excusing away a stupid, deadly mistake in a technique. Well, in a real fight, what I would really, no, bullshit. You were surprised in that moment. That's what fucking came out. Your command looked like shit. Your timing was off and you got tagged. Don't tell me what you would do in a real fight, because that wasn't real and you got knifed. So ego can tell me any story it wants, but it's BS, right? That's what false confidence looks like. Okay. It's the kind of stuff that's built on false bravado during training, or those BS talks again around the water cooler at work or whatever, right? What it looks like when it's crashing down. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's when the pissing and the praying and the crying starts. If the person is still breathing. Okay. Confidence is not a prerequisite. Confidence is a consequence. consequence is an effect of very specific causes that are action-based that give us the skill sets and the experience needed to go into harsher and harsher situations without folding. It is earned from taking action, not from thinking about taking action. Courage comes from stepping forward, not from waiting for certainty. And the warrior who takes one small step gains more confidence than the one who hesitates for a lifetime. And again, just a couple of examples of what this looks like in a modern application, right? I'm too old now. I'm too out of shape. I've been away for too long. Everyone else is ahead of me. I'll look stupid if I return. But again, the cold, hard truth is action builds confidence. Sustained action, right? Getting through the mistakes, getting through the, right? Learning what caused the mistakes, eliminating those things so that we get better and better at those things. And then like things that we're confident in, we don't even think about doing them. Right? Everybody's confident. They probably wouldn't even describe it this way, right? I'm absolutely confident in my ability to drive a car. Unless somebody's a brand new teenager just starting to drive who might say that, right? But if you hop in your freaking car and you drive to work or you drive to the store or whatever, and you give barely any attention to the operation of that vehicle and all the cars driving around you at whatever speed, not having any clue about who the freaking drivers are, what their health conditions are, the fact that they could stroke out, have a heart attack, be on the phone, have a seizure or whatever at any given freaking moment, drive into you, right? We just, right? Because our experience has borne out certain outcomes. And we've been doing it for so freaking long that now when somebody looks like they're not going to stop at a stop sign and we do those 100+ little micro movements and flip them off and call them a couple of 4-letter expletives because our brain and our body has extra reserves consciously because all the other shit for survival is taken care of subconsciously. Most people wouldn't call that confidence, but it absolutely is. Right? The truth is that action builds confidence. Hesitation, on the other hand, builds fear. The longer we hesitate, the more things we can think about to be worried about. And the more we worry about those things, it's like rubbing salt in a festering wound. All right? So, kind of summarize this, right? 3 ethos all point together, right? So, if you feel stuck right now, right? Or just remember this for the next time that you do, right? If you feel stuck in training, in life, in a relationship, in your career, okay? Remember these 3 warrior truths. 1, momentum beats motivation every single time. 2, you don't need perfect conditions. You need progress, right? And 3, confidence comes from action, not before it. Right? These principles are true whether you're facing an attacker, you're facing a daunting project, a challenging relationship, or the simple desire to reclaim the warrior you once were or you once dreamed about. Okay. So before I close out here, any questions or comments? James, anything? Sensei, you're full of shit, whatever. They be talking to you, not me. How poofy I am. I need a haircut.
Maury said, I am really noticing how you are using the same concept for obtaining confidence or motivation. Action precedes both.
Every single time. And warriors are people of action. You know who's people of like talking about it beforehand? Politicians, bureaucrats, actors, paid liars, bullshit artists. It's true. It's true. Right? And every time, no matter what area of our life, every time we act in the face of makes it easier when something really bad comes along to act in the face of. This is not going to translate well for the folks that are listening audio only, but in the Gyokko-ryu, we have these several kuji, right? The names don't matter or whatever, but if you interlace your fingers on the outside, right, there's the inner bonds fist and whatnot in kuji. This is very similar to the outer bonds fist in the kuji, but in the Gyokko-ryu, this particular mudra doesn't have the same meaning as in the kuji outer bonds fist, right? So this one is taken up before some of the kata, typically in the Joryaku no Maki, right? And while there are nuanced translations and layers to this, one of the meanings behind this is actually a feeling and a recognition, okay, that universal justice, universal truth will win out. Okay. What that means is I will do the best that I can do. And my opponent, my attacker, will do the best that he can do. And whoever does the most right things at the right time and the least wrong things at the wrong time, universal justice, universal truth says that person will win. This has nothing to do with what we want, nothing to do with what we desire, anything like that. We need to get that shit off the table. We need to recognize that the cold, hard truth for a warrior is, right? If we are not willing to accept that base truth, we have no fucking business being a warrior. Everything gets worse from there. Okay. Anybody that's doing this stuff because you think you're going to be invincible, it's delusional. Okay. A stray ricocheting bullet could take you out. Okay. Just as a quick reminder to everybody, we all are easy to kill. Me too. All easy to kill. The training is not making us invincible. The training, at best, is making us more aware, more prepared, and harder to kill. But not impossible. We're all fucking easy to kill. Okay? We're not special because we're warriors. Okay? We allow for our lives to be better, easier, the lives of other people's to be better, to be easier, that kind of thing, right? Provide for more special moments while we're still here. Okay? The truth is we can't do good in the world if we're not in the world. And the reality is that, in the words of Dai-Shihan Jack Hoban, I still have a card. James, you've seen it. It's on my freaking office door. Just a little business card size thing. Gave it to a bunch of us students a bunch of years ago. Really simple. It says, somewhere in the world, someone is training to hurt you. And if you're not training and you meet them, you will lose. Now, wouldn't it be cool if we got through an entire life and nobody ever attacked us? It's not a waste of skills. It's not a waste of time and training. Considering the millions of people, the randomness and the way people move around the world, and the times we live in, I think that'd be like a cosmic awesome. Okay. But it's like insurance. Without clarity, nobody likes to pay for it, but they're certainly fucking happy when they have it and it pays off. But with clarity, we know why we need it, so we're not left with a bigger freaking mess when messy things happen. And by all means, enjoy training. Keeps you from being a paranoid schizophrenic because you were dwelling on how bad things can be. Anybody ever had a martial arts teacher like that? Always telling you about how like bad things are going to be and how much somebody's going to kill you if you screw up or whatever. I've had my fair share of them. It's early on in training, way early 80s. This was explained. Hudson Sensei talked about this kind of stuff, and so did some of the other master teachers, that the reason why we laugh and have a good time in training is because it balances out the seriousness of what we're preparing for. It also allows you to keep a light heart no matter how bad things get. And based on my experience in the world from childhood, through my law enforcement days, through my military days, through bodyguard stuff and all that, we're training to take on the monsters that most people don't want to know exist in the world. But none of that's going to happen. And meh, preparation is not going to deal with anybody more than a meh attacker. Unless we got lucky. But then if we got lucky, or if we believed in luck, probably wouldn't fucking train at all. Anyway, so anything else, James, before I go into my little wrap-up thing here?
No, I don't see anything.
Man, people have been awfully quiet the last couple of weeks. I don't know if I'm hitting a nerve or just boring the shit out of people or what, but I don't know. Why don't you tell me these things? Man, don't you love it when I sound like normal people? It's all James's fault. No. Anyway. All right. So, over the years, I've helped a lot of people get unstuck. Right. I know most people would just consider being like martial arts class or whatever. I've been accused by some people. They moved halfway across the country, had to find another dojo or whatever. Right. And I get this email back that I ruined them. Because what they keep running into, regardless of the system style, including training groups in this realm and whatnot, is just the tight end, just the physical technique collection kind of thing. But either way, right? I've helped a lot of people get unstuck, especially students who trained long ago and want to return. Often they don't know how. And for some, they wanted to return, but I didn't know they wanted to return because I didn't know it until they actually took action, right? I've had students that were just local students that were out of training for, 16 years, 22 years. I think the longest one that has the record was in my original training group that I formed when I moved back to the States for my military service in West Germany, which means he was gone for 30 or 31 years. When he came back with 2 teenage stepdaughters. Okay. But either way, right? I talked about this before, right? I've been working quietly on something behind the scenes that speaks directly to this. And again, I'll share more about this soon. But for now, take these 3 truths, these 3 ethos, into the week, right? And begin with one small action, right? Warriors don't wait for perfect moments. We create them. All right. So All right. As we wrap up this episode of KUDEN, I want you to remember something important, right? Being stuck is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're on the edge of movement, right? We're being drawn, we're being pulled. We wouldn't feel stuck if we weren't trying to move the damn car. Nobody notices the car is stuck until the wheels start spinning and we're not getting any traction, right? And movement can start small. One decision, one micro action, one moment where you choose motion, where you choose movement over hesitation, over waiting, right? So if this lesson hit home for you, take one step before you go to bed tonight. Not a big leap, just one intentional action, right? Send yourself a reminder. Clear a space on the floor. Pick a time tomorrow. Do a single stretch, a single kamae, a single breath with purpose, right? Because we warriors don't wait for perfect moments. We create momentum through action, even when conditions aren't perfect, right? And if you felt a spark during this episode, right? If you felt yourself leaning forward a little bit, maybe, right? Keep an eye out. Like I said, I've been working on something behind the scenes for those who want to reclaim their training, right? Who want to rebuild confidence, who want to restart with clarity. Right? So I'll talk about that more in a couple of days, right? So make sure you're following us on Facebook, like at least on the KUDEN podcast page, if not the online Ninjutsu training page, even on my personal page, whatever, right? Make sure you're following us on Facebook, on YouTube, right? We're on X, right? And we're on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And also, especially make sure that you're subscribed to the KUDEN Circle email list. Okay. So, but for tonight, for this point in time, right? Take your one step. Don't think about taking it. Take it. All right. And that being said, we'll open it up one last time for any last minute questions or comments or anything that came in late. And then we got to wrap this one up, right? Put this one in the can. So, James, any last minute before we go?
Greg
No.
just said, thank you for today's talk. Interesting things to ponder.
Good. Pondering is one of those pondering and reflection and those kind of things. Those are important training pieces. Okay. Remember, all warriors, especially ninja, right? There's three aspects to our training, right? I know I mentioned Taiden, Kuden, Shinden, but these train the three aspects of the whole person, right? To create the Miwo Shinobu, the body capable of enduring. And I'm first one to tell you, right? Coming up on 63 here in 2 months, right? Becomes harder, right? But the body capable of enduring, the Kokoro Shinobu, the mind capable of enduring, and the Shiko Shinobu, the spirit, right? The heart capable of enduring. Okay. Just like I said earlier on, right? If we can only move forward, if we can only do things when everything's going great, okay? Everybody can do shit when situation's great. You don't need warriors for that. What you need are warriors at the gate when all shit's gone sideways. So we're either training for that or we're involved in a very interesting recreational undertaking, I guess. James, what would you call it? Is that close enough, you think?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's a hobby. I like Asian things. And that's okay. People can train for whatever reason they want. But calling oneself a warrior when they're not doing warrior shit is like being a part of a football or other sports team that just happens to have the name Warriors. Okay. It's like calling a dog, my favorite analogy, calling a dog's tail a leg. Just because you call it a leg doesn't make it one. Okay? So if I push the wrong buttons and you're not coming back, they were only the wrong buttons on you. Other people will be back. It'll be okay. I'll try to survive. So I think I have a time limit before the dick comes out, right? But I'm not even wearing a condom. I had to pull that on somebody the other day. I had to ask them if they were wearing a condom, because if they were going to act like one, they should definitely dress like one. Anyway, is that it? That's all we got?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you. My regular KUDEN circle. And for those of you who have been following along, I appreciate it. If you're new, great. Hopefully I'll see you again on the next one. But until then, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining James. As always, train smart, stay safe, and I'll see you next time, right here on KUDEN. Get more of KUDEN Radio, subscribe through your favorite podcasting site, or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.